Hello, and welcome to the first session of Shadow and Light, an online meditation course where we're going to be, first of all, establishing our own daily meditation practice, or if it already exists, to reestablish it, to rediscover what brings us to the seat, and to be re inspired to show up every day with consistency. Additionally, we're going to be diving into a really powerful path to peace and wholeness and well-being and all of the things that bring us to the meditation seat, that of overcoming pairs of opposites, sometimes simply referred to as the path of non-dualism, but really yoga, with its goal of samadhi. Samadhi is that state of experiencing our wholeness. Yoga is often just described as union, right? But what is it? What does it mean to unite? What are we uniting? And one response to this is we're reuniting the pairs of opposites. And along the way, we discovered that they were never separate, that the separateness was the illusion of the mind. I have decided to call the course Shadow and Light, just because, it's a sort of poetic pair of opposites that can evoke a lot of the sense that I think I'm getting at, that it's really, really easy for these pairs of opposites, for our mind, which sees things as separate, to take these pairs of opposites and label one good and one bad, one desirable, one undesirable. And that the process that we're going to be going on is going to be discovering the light in the shadow, and the shadow in the light. An image that comes to mind is the yin yang image. Of course, it has its two sides, kind of a wavy inside. It's not a straight line, but it's basically just got two sides, black and white, and within the black there's a white circle, and within the white there's a black circle. And so whether or not you find black more pleasant or white more pleasant, these they belong together. They're actually inseparable. The meditation aspect of all of this is so important, because when we have that sense of stability and that sense of capacity to show up, we build this deep sense of trust. The path of shadow and light, the path of overcoming pairs of opposites as a way to discover our own wholeness and samadhi and peace and balance, it brings us face to face with things that we're afraid of. The way that we build up the capacity, it's kind of a tolerance for observing the things that we've been maybe avoiding in our inner world. It's like a muscle that has to grow. And speaking for myself, I usually can't fully do that work, or at least not really deeply do that work, when I'm not in some kind of container like this. Some kind of container where there's other people that are also, walking the path alongside me to help keep me accountable, that are also doing the work alongside me to help remind me that, the ditch that I fell in is one that I'm not alone. Somebody else has also fallen in it, or maybe is in there right next to me on the same day, which, can be really comforting, and it can be really helpful, because then the two of us can help each other get out, And equally important, as having people who can have compassion for us and help support us when we're low is the capacity to be seen in moments of light, in moments of celebration. It, it can be quite arresting. I'm always surprised by how much fear I discover around the light, how much fear I discover as I do the work around things that are too good to be true, things that are too beautiful for me to embrace as potential in my own life, things that somehow deep down underneath, there's actually a fear, that I'm not good enough to deserve my own dreams or to satisfy the desires that I have. That somehow the universe built me to have these without the capacity to embody them and live them and fulfill them. So the layers of shadow and light can get tricky. They can get funky. They can get scary. so we're starting off everything with an exploration of fear and hope. A lot of your work this week around that theme is actually going to come in the form of the inquiry practices that I'm going to post along with this in a little bit. And in just exploring for yourself, as we began to in that meditation this morning, exploring for yourself what it feels like, the feeling of fear. I want you to be exploring this week the feeling of trust. We're gonna explore these important pairs of opposites from all kinds of angles over the next several weeks. But in these first couple of weeks, I want us to stay. It feels really important to me, and the way that I've designed the journey is for us to stay really embodied at the beginning. So I'm gonna keep referring to the feeling of fear, the feeling of trust, the feeling of what it's like to arrive at whatever your goal is. Do your best to continue to bring it back to embodied experience, again, especially in these first couple weeks. And trust that we are going to get more heady and esoteric at times. I'm also going to give you some texts and excerpts and quotes that it'll all be very dynamic, and we'll use all our parts. But at the beginning, to continue to bring it back to the feeling is really key. Much of the structure of this comes from one of my favorite structures, one of my favorite sort of lists to follow when we're doing the hard work, which is the kleshas. In the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali says, here's these 5 root causes of suffering. These are the 5 categories into which that all of our obstacles in meditation and spiritual practice, but also just in life, can fall into. And he says you can wind them backwards, approach them backwards, and meditate a lot, and basically you'll get down to the very root of your suffering and be able to uproot it. And so in these first couple of weeks, the exercises are very practical and very embodied, and it is really about the basics. Show up to your practice, clean your practice space, do your yoga, deal with your diet stuff. Don't get overwhelmed with this, but just do the stuff that you know that you're supposed to do for your body. In my case, I've been extremely nocturnal lately, and I am excited to use all of y'all's presence to help get me back into a better routine of getting up earlier, which I know feels better. It requires me getting to bed earlier, which has felt really hard lately. Anyway, all to say, these things that are just so basic and the ways that we fall off, and these also tend to be the things that I beat myself up for the most. And this, this is an opportunity to just reset all of that in these first couple of weeks and just attend to those basic things. And then as we go through the kleshas, it gets headier. We go less, this is at first really about what's the atmosphere inside, what's the felt experience. Next week, we're going to explore yes and no. What does yes feel like? What does no feel like? And have some interesting exercises for that and things to explore around that. And then we're working our way towards what comes up after the retreat, for those of us who are going on the retreat, October 10th through 13th. As we come back from that, we're going to start to look much more into the stories and the beliefs and the mental conditions that are contributing to this atmosphere. All to say that the next couple of weeks, it's all about being embodied. It's all about getting back into our healthy routines. It's all about rewarding ourselves for these little wonderful steps forward that we take that all add up to getting us exactly where we need to be. I'm gonna now share some quotes that are inspiration that are going to end up in your handouts that you're going to get a little later today. Theme: opposites. This is a big theme for us, and I'm just going to share a couple of quotes about opposites that are in your little packet this week. These are meant to inspire your inquiry and inspire your curiosity and inspire your own exploration. So just note what pops up at you, and you're going to get more content like it to dig into over the next few days. This is a quote from my teacher, Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. You cannot know yourself through bliss alone, for bliss is your very nature. You must face the opposite, what you are not, to find enlightenment. And here's some wisdom from the Tao Te Ching. When people see some things as beautiful, other things become ugly. When people see something as good, other things become bad. Being and non-being create each other. Difficult and easy support each other. High and low depend on each other. Before and after follow each other. And so here's some interesting nuggets, learning who we are or what we are comes through this experience of seeing what we're not. And then this intriguing idea that I brought up before, suggesting with just that yin-yang shape, that things that seem like they're opposites actually rely on each other. They're related. They're much more related than we think of them as. Another big theme for us this week, of course, is fear. We do see fear with hope or fear with desire. In other words, what we desire not to happen is fear, and what we desire to happen might be called hope. But within those, if we're starting to really work from the feeling state, I really highly recommend cultivating trust as this balance to fear in that inner state. And some of these exercises are really just nervous system resets, right? Ways to just calm ourselves back down. So here's a little wisdom about fear. Trusting Bhagavan, which is another word for your enlightened self. Trusting Bhagavan is trusting yourself. Be aware that whatever happens, happens to you, by you, through you, that you're the creator, enjoyer, and destroyer of all you perceive, and you will not be afraid. Unafraid, you will not be unhappy, nor will you seek happiness. The final illusion falls away when we realize that we already are what we are seeking, that it's here and it's now. And that experience of fearlessness, that experience that we tried to kind of touch on in meditation today in some way, that feeling of being complete is not a space where we are totally protected from everything. It's a space where we don't need to be protected because it's all us. Because nothing that is here can actually harm what we really are.